Welcome back to another episode of Intended Consequences, the official podcast of the Strategy Corp Institute of Public Policy and Economy. I'm your host, Sebastian Lebrec. On December 4th, Statistics Canada released much anticipated labor productivity data for the third quarter of 2024. While for the seventh time in 8 quarters, labor productivity declined in Canada. The release noted that the decline in productivity in the third quarter reflects the slowdown in the pace of growth in business output, while hours worked continued to increase at a rate fairly similar to the ones of the previous 2 quarters. This is not exactly an ideal situation for the Canadian economy. The construction sector is badly hit by this decline of productivity. Labor productivity in the construction industry is lower today than it was before the pandemic. This comes at a time when communities are growing and we need to build more houses and we need to build more infrastructure. Increasing productivity will require a variety of tools, and one of them is likely to be technology. To discuss how some of the tech solutions we've highlighted in previous episodes of this podcast and how it might be helpful or useful or impactful in the construction sector, I invited Hamid Alemohammad, the co-founder and chief operating officer of Brickeye. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so let's set the stage a little bit for the conversation by talking about your company and how it links to tech in construction. So what should our listeners know about Brickeye?
Hi, Sebastian. Nice to meet you, and it's great to be here. Our company Brickeye is a construction technology company, and we are dedicated to mitigating risk, boosting productivity, and protecting margins in building and infrastructure construction projects. And that's done through job site monitoring using sensors and smart systems, smart automation, and use of AI or artificial intelligence. The company has an end-to-end job site platform that delivers actionable alerts and also intelligent loss reducing automation to basically help builders, developers, insurance companies to build safer, smarter, and better.
So when we think about the construction industry, we often think about things like, lumber, hammers, and nails. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but, it's kind of in the minds of people, right? But I think Brickeye is a really good example of how tech can be deployed in this industry. So can you tell us more about how innovative technologies are used in the construction of, say, mid to high-rise buildings?
Great question. Obviously, and definitely construction industry is beyond lumber, hammers, and nails, especially in 21st century. And the industry, if you look at the construction industry, it has come a long way with respect to adoption of technology in different areas and different types of technology that they have adopted. And currently, if you look at different projects, you brought up example of a building construction, also in the infrastructure construction, there are a lot of technologies that are being used or are in the stage of being adopted by builders and developers and government entities who are overseeing infrastructure projects. When we go to building construction, which is a big sector of the construction industry, especially when it comes to mid-rise and high-rise buildings, there are many technologies that are currently being used. One of them is building information modeling. Which is abbreviated as BIM, B-I-M. It's basically a digital representation of a building physical and functional characteristics. And BIM enables real-time collaboration among architects, engineers, contractors, and the subcontractors who are active in the projects. It integrates data, and everything is shared in a 3D model. It's an evolution from a 2D blueprint to a 3D model with much more details involved in that.
So that's interesting. You mentioned there are also some technologies that are in the process of adoption. Can you tell us more?
Yes, there are a number of technologies that are being adopted by the industry, and they are technologies related to smart systems, robots, automation, and also in recent years, AI and data analytics. As an example for smart systems, devices that can be embedded in a construction site for critical monitoring and control at the project sites, which could be structural monitoring, it could be safety monitoring, it could be energy management, and many other types of applications. And also robots used and employed for heavy duty applications and time consuming tasks. I've seen a lot of examples of robots in the form of a 3D printer, like a giant 3D printer printing concrete walls. So that's also an example that we see a lot. And with the evolution of AI, especially generative AI, and advanced data analytics tools, AI is also being used in, or I would say is being adopted by the industry. And the way it's done is by analyzing historical data, real-time data to optimize the schedules, detecting potential risks, predicting maintenance needs, reducing waste, and improving productivity. These are examples of like how advanced data analytics tools can be used in this industry.
So Brickeye is also involved in on the infrastructure side of the equation, and I know it's definitely top of mind for many of our municipal clients. So I want to focus on infrastructure for a minute. Are there any impactful technology solutions that are currently kind of being rolled out to either build or repair infrastructure? What should our municipal clients know?
Yeah, that's correct. Like infrastructure is a significant segment of the construction in industry, and there are many impactful technologies that can be used for infrastructures, in the way they're built, maintained, and also repaired. And the focus of those technologies is related to challenges for aging infrastructure, budget constraints for maintenance, and environmental sustainability. Basically, the factors that municipalities and governments they're concerned with. Some of these technologies that I can mention, one of them is very similar to what's used in building construction, and that's smart sensors and monitoring systems. But the difference here is that they are used for permanent and long-term monitoring of the assets. Imagine sensors that can detect vibrations, defects in bridges, roads, water systems, and the data that is coming out of those sensors can be analyzed by an AI tool in order to provide insight with respect to the maintenance status of the asset, the structural integrity of the asset, any environmental concerns and factors. That's one example. And also when it comes to very large scale, I would say linear infrastructures that are roads, pipelines, pipes, water systems, drones and surveillance systems that can fly over these assets. They take high resolution images with cameras. Also, they are equipped with LiDARs to provide detailed aerial view of the infrastructure. And then the data can be ingested by an AI engine or an image processing engine in order to identify damages, wears, erosion, corrosion if it's a metal structure, things like that. So that's another tool that can be used in the infrastructure repair and maintenance stage. And also, another example is digital twins. We hear that a lot. The use of digital twin for infrastructure management, basically. And digital twins are basically a virtual replica of a physical system, and in this case, it's a physical infrastructure that basically simulates the performance of the asset and predict outcomes. So imagine you have sensors in the field, the data comes into the digital twin, and then digital twin models and simulates what's happening really with the structure. So you can actually run scenarios and analyze them and then generate insight with respect to when is the maintenance time, what's the status of that asset, when does it need to be maintained, and things like that.
So that actually sounds like a bit of a game changer because, for the longest time, if you're a municipality, you have to have your public works employee just drive around town and check on every overpass and be like, okay, this one looks good. Oh, this road has a hole there, so I guess we'll have to patch it. But what you're describing is a world where a lot of these tasks are automated. So that kind of brings me to the productivity question. So it sounds like there's a big, and you mentioned it at the beginning, sounds like technology in the construction sector could really help boost productivity. So how do you think this all plays out?
Yeah, productivity and growth of productivity in the construction industry is a very hot topic, as you mentioned. Tech solutions have a critical role in improving the productivity, and they can definitely boost productivity by addressing inefficiencies, and by streamlining processes, and also enhancing communications across various project phases. I mean, construction projects, regardless of being a building or an infrastructure project, they're very, very complicated project. If you look at a construction project, there are different parties involved. Like the owners, which could be in the infrastructure case is a government, and in the case of a building, there are developers and owners of the asset, and also general contractors, subcontractors, trades. If you look at different parties are involved, and it's a very, very complicated process if you look at it from that angle. But using technologies, for example, automation, to reduce manual labor, for automating tasks and accelerating work and reducing errors, and also creating consistency. A lot of work that is currently done manually, they can be automated and let the machines or computers in this case do that in order to be consistent, to be uniform, and to minimize basically defects and reduce the amount of rework. Rework is actually a big contributor to cost for a lot of projects.
So beyond productivity, we know that the construction sector has a large carbon footprint. So does tech have a role to play in helping reduce the industry's emissions?
Yes, definitely. Tech has a critical role in reducing the carbon footprint and reducing the environmental impact in the construction industry. And construction, similar to some other industries, contributes significantly to global emissions because of the material production, energy usage, and also waste generation. And similar to many other industries, construction faces this growing need to adopt new tools and also adapt to this rapidly changing landscape of environmental requirements. And traditional methods, as we know, they often fall short in addressing these challenges effectively. One example, when I mentioned material production, is related to cement and concrete. Concrete is a mixture of cement and water and aggregates. Cement is a significant contributor to GHG emission. And it's between 7 to 8% of global GHG emission is related to cement production. That's significant, and technology and tools can help reducing the GHG emission. One of these examples that we see a lot is use of new materials as a replacement for cement. Not 100% replacement, but reducing the amount of cement, but not compromising the strength and the quality of the concrete. And there are many technologies that are being developed and are being implemented actually in the industry that we see that they use these advanced materials. Another technology that we tried and actually we have implemented in many projects is use of the data analytics and sensors inside cement and inside concrete, basically, in order to collect data and also help the producers of the cement to optimize their mix design, not in order to optimize the amount of cement, which in the technical term is cementitious material, but it's cement basically, to optimize the amount of cement being used in an admixture of concrete. Other than that, looking at other tools, for example, BIM that I mentioned before, and AI, combined together, they can optimize the building designs. They can reduce material waste and also basically support the life cycle of carbon assessments.
Based on our conversation so far, there's no doubt that deploying technology and digital solutions in the construction sector has a lot of benefits, but it's not as widespread as perhaps it could be. So that kind of brings me to the barrier question. So are there barriers to deploying the tools that you just mentioned, and if so, what are they?
A great question. Again, in construction is not an exception. Anytime a new tool, a new technology is being introduced to an industry, there are always barriers for that. But it's important to understand the barriers and also optimize the solution in order to address those barriers. Overall, I can say that the perception of innovation is something that is important when it comes to adoption of technology. A lot of people think that construction is slow in adopting technologies and it's an older school industry. I mean, the fact is that it could be true, but at the same time, we're dealing with a very, very complicated industry. Like adopting a tool is not like adopting a tool for other industries that it's more straightforward. So that's one, I wouldn't call it the barrier, but it's an understanding of like how the technology can be adopted. This is an industry that is very cost sensitive. An industry that has inefficiencies and financial, a lot of financial controls. Cost is a concern, and looking at the technology as a high cost addition to the projects, it's a barrier for adopting technology. And that's actually important for technology leaders who want to enter into this market and help the industry to innovate, is to draw a picture of a long-term saving and a long-term return on investment. That's very important. It has to be tangible. It has to be understandable for the industry in order to be able to adopt that. Also, resistance to change, similar again to many other industries, because in the construction, it's a very regulated and risk-averse industry, and it sometimes lead to resistance when introducing new methods or materials or technologies. It's not because the industry is not unwilling to adopt. It's because of the regulations and red tapes and that need to be addressed. And that's why it's important for the technology and innovation to address those items before basically adopting it. And also another thing is the whole misconception about innovation is that it's not, when it comes to construction, innovation is not about like groundbreaking new technologies. It is, that's part of innovation, but even incremental improvement in the way things are done, new processes, new automations, that's innovation. There are incremental improvement, incremental adoptions, and then they improve the ROI in an incremental way. That's actually important to consider when it comes to adoption.
So you described some technologies that probably rely on connectivity. So I'd be curious, perhaps thinking about the barriers again, is connectivity and broadband access at all a concern in some projects, or we're past that?
No, that's still a concern in projects, and our technology actually is an example of a technology that relies on connectivity. Especially when it comes to automation, relying on data from cloud, connectivity is a big concern. So when you're in an urban area, connectivity is not that big of an issue. Almost the entire North America is covered by 5G or maybe a 4G network. But when you go to remote areas, connectivity is a significant problem. Again, technologies that are designed or are designed for those applications, they need to have that sort of like a feature, I would say, to be able to operate without connectivity. An offline mode operation that can, if you, for example, collect data in a job site, you should be able to collect it offline, and then when you go to an area that there is either Wi-Fi or internet or cellular connectivity, you can upload the data to cloud. That's the problem, especially in northern Canada. Northern Canada, we have that issue. We have had areas that are remote, not even very, very north, even northern Ontario. We have had issues when it was an infrastructure project in a remote area. So the connectivity is a barrier, is a technical barrier.
So Brickeye has clients in both Canada and the United States. So I'd be curious to know if you see any jurisdictional differences when it comes to the use of tech in construction. Like, what are you hearing from your American clients that might be different than what you hear from your Canadian clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are definitely jurisdictional differences between Canada and US when it comes to adoption of technology in the construction. And that's because of different reasons. Regulatory frameworks in both countries, in two countries, are different. Market sizes are different. The labor dynamics is different, and their cultural attitudes toward innovation are different in the two countries. Examples of that, if you look at the market size, obviously, US is a much bigger market when it comes to construction and infrastructure investment. And when it's a bigger market, there more room for innovation and adoption of new technologies. At the same time, when you're in a tech sector and you're building tech solutions for the construction, you rely a lot of time on venture capital investments. And we see more, I would say, bullish venture capital investments in the US for investing in technologies to be adopted in the construction industry. Generally speaking, when it comes to sort of a attitude toward innovation and the technology adoption trends, Canadian firms, the construction firms, are typically more conservative than Americans, and they are slower in adopting emerging technologies. I mean, we see more often than in Canada, construction companies, they prefer more cost efficient and also technologies that have been validated. In the US, they're more risk takers. They are more open in testing new technologies and seeing the results, especially if the firms are close or are located in tech hubs in the US, like Boston, Silicon Valley, New York, those areas. We see that more, like they're more open in testing new technologies. That's also a difference that we see across the two countries. And also the labor dynamics are different. Part of the construction industry is based on unionized labors, but different states, even in the US, have different laws. So when you have a new technology you want to use, I mean, you need to consider those differences across different jurisdictions.
So you mentioned the attitude bit, which I think is really apropos. So say there's a developer listening to our show right now, or municipal official, and they're like, oh, we should look into integrating more technology in our business model. Like, where do they even start? It sounds it sounds promising, but if I'm put myself in their shoes, it also sounds daunting because, which technology will offer the most bang to your buck, or ROI, to use your argument. So how would you recommend businesses looking to adopt technology go about that?
That's actually a good question, and also it's a very valid concern. So I think the first step for any organization, in this case municipalities, to adopt technology is, first of all, you need to understand the problem. What problem you're going to solve. I think that's the first stage in any technology adoption. It's kind of similar to Business 101. When you want to start a company, you need to have a problem to solve. So it costs. So it's the same thing here. Like you need to know what problem you're solving. That's the first step, and then the municipality need to invest in sort of a very thorough research of what is available in the market. I think they can collaborate with technology firms, consulting firms, universities, academic institutions, in order to get the most updated information about available technologies in solving their problems. And as a result of that, they can open their sort of search into available technologies in the market and the potential firms that they can work with. I've seen, some government agencies, they actually have programs that they ask startups and technology companies to apply for challenges. I think our federal government, I've seen that they do that quite often. And that's something that an approach that the municipalities can take as well. So they can put a problem and then invite tech companies to apply for it, and then they can actually see all kinds of solutions, all kinds of companies applying, and then they can choose them and set up a small budget for a pilot for testing, and then they can go through that testing, validation, and a scale up with some companies or that they select from that list. I think that's something that would work when it comes to municipalities. That's something that I think would work, because we tried it with different organizations, not municipalities, but other organizations that worked pretty well for us.
So those sounds like good first steps. So saying that the technology moves fast is a bit of an understatement. So I want to end with a forward-looking question. So what do you think the future holds when it comes to the use of tech and digital solutions in the construction sector?
Looking ahead, there is no doubt that the construction must continue to innovate, basically. And we have demands for urbanization, climate change, and the shortage of resource. Those are basically global problems. It's not specific to any country or continent. This industry will innovate, and there is no exception for it. The vision that I see for the future is a vision where data and technology they converge. And in order to make our built environment smarter and more sustainable and more responsive to the needs of communities, countries, and the planet. So that's where I see the future in the construction and generally AEC industry, architecture, engineering, and construction. And technologies like IoT, Internet of Things, AI, and automation will be pivotal in this journey in reshaping the way cities are built, maintained, the way the infrastructures are maintained and built, in order to be more efficient, more resilient, and basically at the end of the day, less costly to everyone in order to maintain and build new assets. And I think the AEC industry is in a great journey, and they are very much encouraged to support the growth of technologies in this industry. There are many conferences that we see these days that are very much focused on adoption of technology across the entire AEC industry.
So it sounds like I'll have to invite you back on the show in 2-3 years, and we can take stock of where the technology is. So this was a really great conversation. I love that we got to cover anything from productivity to carbon footprint, infrastructure, and high to mid-rise buildings. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and share your insight and what you're seeing as the COO of Brickeye. Thank you so much. The views expressed during this podcast are not necessarily the views of Strategy Corp. All rights for this episode are reserved, and the guests on the Intended Consequences podcast might be current or past clients of Strategy Corp. To find out more about the work of the Institute and to subscribe to our newsletter, visit our website at strategycorp.com/institute and make sure to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm Sebastian Lebrac, and I intend to talk to you again next episode.